There are actually two different ways of pricing carbon. The first one is the carbon tax, and the second one is known as a cap-and-trade system. We're going to explain the carbon tax in the next slides. The carbon tax is an environmental tax settled by governments in their countries. It gives a price to the carbon dioxide emissions that are generated by fossil fuels. Therefore, when people are willing to fuel their cars, the price they will pay is actually composed of two parts: the cost of the fuel itself and the cost of the CO2 emissions generated by the oil. The principal issue of the carbon tax is that it directly impacts the people's purchasing power, and it is therefore a bit difficult to implement if it's not part of a larger contractionary fiscal policy. When people do not get any other tax relief, such as a reduction in the income tax, for example, they tend to strike, and it can lead to relatively important social protests, such as the Yellow Jacket mass movement, for example. The second way of pricing carbon is known as a cap-and-trade system or emission trading system. It is based on the same model as trading markets, and it operates between companies. The system is giving a right to pollute to the companies that they need to respect. Each company produces a certain amount of CO2. Therefore, in order to reduce the global emissions, the governments decide on a reduced amount of emissions that the companies are allowed to produce for the next year. This amount is known as the cap. In our examples, the factories A and B are allowed to emit a certain amount of CO2 represented by the circles. The factory A decided to change their production process for something more environmental friendly. Therefore, they did not consume all their permits to pollute. On the other hand, the factory B did not make any change in their production system. They outreached their allowed amount of emissions. The factory B needs therefore to buy more permits to pollute to the factory A, which has some for sale.